daily recap. Now it's a Sunday today. I'm doing the recap for Friday. Friday night had something else going on, so I'm doing the recap today. And as you guys can recall, on Thursday I suffered a pretty bad loss, and so my equity at the end of Thursday was about 5,600. So you also recall that I was holding a position overnight, which I don't normally do and is not a part of my strategy on this stock AI here. Okay, so I had a long position into the close at 129.50 and ended up topping it at 131.75 after hours. It made a double top at the high day, 131.75 after hours, and it never got back to the point and get that point again. Um, During the pre-market or after hours trading prices. Now I was holding 100 shares, as I said. Now this is a prime example for you guys that you do not want to stray from your strategy, right? You have a strategy and you have a particular way of trading for the reason that it makes you successful, and that's how you are a successful trader. You're good at your trading regimen because of your strategy. So my emotions got the best of me and I made a poor decision. Now, this is where we need to understand that those poor decisions can become compounded. So you take one bad decision or a couple of bad decisions from trades in the day, and then that leads you to take another poor decision in the trade in the evening, and then that can cause you to be down the next day, and then it can cause you to make another poor decision. So it ended up being a poor decision. And it was a poor decision because, as we can see, pre-market and, like I said, after hours, it didn't get above 124 area, 125. So what that means is, right, that it was range bound pre-market. I was looking at it saying, okay, if we start moving up, then we got a potential to test that 135 or 131 area. But if it doesn't, if it starts to break down and breaks the pre-market lows, then it can really drop. And then if it breaks yesterday's low, it can really start to get into heavy trouble. So because it's in a recent IPO, that means there's going to be some more volatility. So I'm aware of all these things, and I'm holding 100 shares, right? I've been down, I am down. And so the conclusion is, I have to set my stop somewhere, right? Where am I drawing the line in the sand? And so it was obviously it's going to be dependent on the opening price action as well. So we can see what happened. Opened and it dropped like a rock, right? Right down to 116 there. And I'm holding 100 shares. So from 129.50 to 119.50, that's $1,000 if it drops to that level, on 100 shares, right? And after already taking a significant loss, that's not something that is really a scenario that you want to be in any case, but in a small count, obviously that's more difficult. So I ended up having to take the loss, and I was down 800 to start the day, an additional 800 from the day previous. So, in you know, in the grand scheme of things, after we got rid of that, it was a green trading day. But this is where that compounded loss essentially had me, down 20 about $2,400, right? That I was down from one day, and I allowed those things to compound on each other, and that's when you can get into trouble. Anyways, I set my stop. I think it was about 122, and I ended up taking about an $800 loss in an additional, and then I traded the rest of the day from there. Overall, I'm still, the account is still in a good spot, right? It's still up 100% since I started it, but how easily we can see that another one of those days, and all of a sudden I'm back to where I started. And that's not acceptable if you're going to be a successful trader. You need to manage your risk. That's what I keep talking about. And this was an example of how to improperly manage risk, because this wasn't a good way to manage risk. By me holding into the close, I've taken on greater risk, right? My risk coefficient has gone up because of a decision that I made, and it's now out of my control, right? Because unless I'm getting up at 4 a.m. to watch that trade, and micromanage that trade. At this point, all the strategy for the trade of stop loss, profit targets, of how much you're willing to risk, um, to what is the setup, the pattern, what is the expectation there, what's the volume doing, is there a catalyst, like all those things that normally dictate a good trade are now gone, and it's hope, holding and hoping, and that's not a strategy, and that's how people lose money. And clearly that's an example of what happened to me, right? So let's let this be a lesson. And as I said, it's, I'm not a perfect trader as well. This is part of why I do this stuff, why I'm doing this stuff, is because, you know, this is an accountability for me to show you guys that if I still can make mistakes as well. And I've been doing this for years. So, you know, we come back the next day, and now I'm happy that it's a new week and I can start everything from scratch again. And the goal is just going to be, at the end of the week, if I'm back to where I was before I took on this big loss, then that's a success. That's a good thing, right? But I can't be concerned with trying to make back all that money in one day, or trying to make back all that money, period. It just needs to be focused on green trades day in and day out. That's the focus. Even if it's only $400 tomorrow, doesn't matter if that means I still have another 16 $100 to make up to get back to where I was. That type of thinking is going to get you back into a hole again, because you're trying too hard. You're not just analyzing the setups and trading what looks good to you and what your strategy presents itself as an opportunity. So these are the components of emotional IQ and being self-aware, which allow you to move forward in the future, right? So that's what the plan is now. The next week is just green days, getting back to a green streak, green days, small, doesn't matter. We just want to keep the red days small and keep the green days consistent. And I had one day where that didn't happen. Now it's time to recoup and get myself back into a routine. And so we'll look to do that tomorrow.